Tonbridge School is an independent day and boarding school for boys in Tonbridge, Kent, England, founded in 1553 by Sir Andrew Judde. It is a member of the Eton Group, and has close links with the Worshipful Company of Skinners, one of the oldest London livery companies. It is a public school in the British sense of the term. There are currently around 800 boys in the school, aged between 13 and 18. The school occupies a site of 150 acres on the edge of Tonbridge, and is largely self-contained, though the boarding and day houses are spread through the town. Since its foundation, the school has been rebuilt twice on the original site. For the academic year 2015-16, Tonbridge charges full boarders up to £12,096 per term and £9,072 per term for day pupils, making it the fourth and sixth most expensive HMC boarding and day school respectively. The headmaster since 2005 is Tim Haynes, previously headmaster of Monmouth School and deputy master at St Paul's School. The school is one of only a very few of the ancient public schools not to have turned co-educational, and there are no plans for this to happen. History. Foundation. The school was founded in 1553 by Andrew Judde, being granted its royal charter by Edward VI. The first headmaster was the Rev. John Proctor, a Fellow of All Souls College, Oxford. From 1553 until his death in 1558, Judde was the sole governor of the school, and at some time, he framed the statutes that were to govern it for the next 270 years. On Judde's death, the school was passed to the Skinners Company, after a dispute with Judde's business partner Henry Fisher. For the next 100 years, few details of the school survive apart from rare records in the Skinners Company books. Headmaster Proctor died in 1558, and was succeeded by a series of headmasters, usually clergymen and always classical scholars. They included the Rev. William Hatch, the first Old Tonbridgian headmaster. According to the Skinners' records, the Rev. Michael Jenkins was appointed because he was the only one who turned up. During his time as headmaster, the school received a series of generous endowments from Thomas Smythe, the first governor of the East India Company and son of Andrew Judde's daughter Alice. The second 100 years, very little written material relating to the school over the next century survives. Numbers fluctuated between 40 and 90, and the school obtained a new refectory and a new library. However, from 1680 numbers declined, and for a few years the examiners reported that there were no candidates fit for university study. In 1714, the Reverend Richard Spencer, of King's College, Cambridge, was made headmaster. He was an immediate success and very popular, and by 1721 numbers had risen to over 70. The governors raised Spencer's salary to 30 guineas, and several of his pupils went on to successful careers. These included a future Lord Mayor of London, a Vice-Chancellor of Cambridge University, and George Austen, father of Jane Austen. The first Old Tonbridgian dinner was held on the 8th of June 1744. The year before this, however, Spencer had resigned, and the headmastership was bestowed upon the Reverend James Cawthorne. Cawthorne persuaded the governors to build a new library at the south end of the school in 1760, and it survives today as the headmaster's house and the Skinners Library. In 1765, the townspeople of Tonbridge asked the question of free education, and governor's legal team decided that the parishioners' children, provided they could write competently and read Latin and English perfectly, had the right to learn at the school, paying paying only the sixpence entry fee. In 1772, distinguished classical scholar Vices Miss Knox was made headmaster, but he reigned for a mere 6 years. During his tenure, numbers dropped to only 17. His son and namesake Vices Miss Knox was to take his father's place in 1779. School numbers under the young Knox rose to 85, and pupils began to arrive from all over England and also from abroad. The 19th century, Knox retired in 1812, and was succeeded by his younger son, Thomas. The period of Knox's headmastership was one of national economic and political change. But at the school the greatest change was to be the increasing importance of cricket. John Abercrombie was to become the school's first cricket blue in 1839. In 1818, a nationwide commission visited Tonbridge to investigate on behalf of the reforming government. Over the next few years, a new scheme for the school was prepared and approved by the Lord Chancellor. New buildings were agreed upon by the governors, and a new dining room and dormitories were built. The school also bought the Georgian building on the High Street to the north of the new junior school, and it was renamed Judde House. This was the school's second boarding house, with the original buildings serving to house boys at the larger schoolhouse. In 1826, the governors bought the field which now contains the head cricket ground, and the patches to the north and south of it, later to be called the Upper and Lower Hundreds. In 1838, Knox took the decision to level the head, a considerable project, using labour and earth from the new railway workings in the town. The labourers often engaged in fights with the boys, as they were lodged nearby. The head became the focal point of the school and was regarded as one of the most beautiful cricket grounds in the south of England. Thomas Knox died shortly after the completion of his cricket pitch in 1834, whilst preparing to preach in the parish church. His death brought to an end the 71-year reign of the Knox family. The World Wars. Tonbridge lost a great many former pupils in both World Wars. 415 old Tonbridgians and 3 masters died in the Great War, and a further 301 OTs died in the line of duty between 1939 to 1945. Eric Stuart Dougal was awarded a posthumous Victoria Cross to go already with his Military Cross in Belgium during the closing stages of World War I. James Brindley Nicholson became the only RAF fighter pilot to be awarded the Victoria Cross during the course of the Battle of Britain after climbing back into his burning Hawker Hurricane to engage a Messerschmitt 110 over the skies of Southampton. Howard Newgas was awarded the school's only George Cross during WW2 after defusing an enemy mine over 2 days. Post-war years. Lawrence Waddy took over as headmaster in 1949. The Tonbridge he inherited was still a largely Victorian institution. Fagging and ritual caning were still in place, and sport was considered more important than academia. Over the next 40 years, personal fagging was abolished, and the intellectual life of the school was revitalized. McCrum, headmaster from 1962 to 70, abolished the right of senior boys to administer corporal punishment, taking over for himself the task of administering routine canings. First-year socials were set up with nearby girls' schools such as Benenden School and Rodine School. Boaters, straw hats worn by boys, were no longer compulsory uniform after a major town gown fight in the 1970s. By the 1990s the school was larger, richer and more prominent than ever. The headmaster until 2005 was Martin Hammond. In 2005, the school was one of 50 leading independent schools found guilty of running an illegal price-fixing cartel, exposed by the Times, which had allowed them to drive up fees for thousands of parents. Each school was required to pay a nominal penalty of £10,000 and all agreed to make ex gratia payments totaling £3 million into a trust, designed to benefit pupils who attended the schools during the period in respect of which fee information was shared. Jean Scott, the head of the Independent Schools Council, said that independent schools had always been exempt from anti-cartel rules applied to business, were following a long-established procedure in sharing the information with each other, and that they were unaware of the change to the law. She wrote to John Vickers, the OFT Director General, saying, "They are not a group of businessmen meeting behind closed doors to fix the price of the products to the disadvantage of the consumer. They are schools that have quite openly continued to follow a long-established practice because they were unaware that the law had changed." Academics. The Good Schools Guide described the school as academically truly excellent, noting that, in 2008, the average GCSE candidate achieved 4A*S and 6As. 87% got all A*A and 98% got all A*A B. Houses. There are 7 boarding houses and 5 day houses at Tonbridge, each containing around 60 boys. In order of foundation: boarding houses, schoolhouse, Judd House, Park House, Hillside, Parkside, Ferrix Hall, Manor House. Day houses: Weldon House, Smythe House, Whitworth, Cowdray House, Oakshott House. Each house is run by a housemaster with help from a deputy housemaster, 2 matrons and 3 or 4 tutors. Sport. The school has produced a number of international rugby players throughout the history of rugby union. In 1871, in the first ever international rugby match, Tonbridge was represented by 2 players, J. E. Bentley and J. H. Luscombe. These players were also members of a team called the Gypsies Football Club, a London-based rugby football club for Old Tonbridgians founded in 1868. This club produced 4 other internationals, including England captain Francis Luscombe, and was also one of the founding members of the Rugby Football Union. Head of school. The head of school, i.e., the head praeposter, is allowed to graze his sheep on the head which is next to the main buildings. He is also allowed to grow a beard and historically was permitted to carry a sword. In the past, only praeposters were allowed to wear coloured shirts and have brown shoes. Recent headmasters of Tonbridge School: T.H.P. Haynes 2005, J.M. Hammond 1990 to 2005, C.H.D. Everett 1975 to 1989, R.M. Ogilvie 1970 to 1975. M. McCrum 1962 to 1970, R.E.V.D. L.H. Waddy 1949 to 1962, E.E.A. Whitworth 1939 to 1949, H.N.P. Sloman 1922 to 1939. C. Lowry 1907 to 1922, R.E.V.D. C. Seat Hancock 1898 to 1907, R.E.V.D. J. Wood 1890 to 1898, R.E.V.D. T.B. Rowe 1875 to 1890, R.E.V.D. J.I. Weldon 1843 to 1875. Notable staff: Ewart Aspel, Master in charge of cricket; George Austin, 18th century second Master and father of Jane Austen; James Cawthorne, Headmaster 1743–61 and poet; Derek Chadwick; Hilary Davin Wetton, a former Director of Music; Clive Dieter, former Chaplain; Martin Hammond, headmaster. John Inverarity, a former Australia cricketer, briefly taught maths at Tonbridge after retiring from cricket. Vice-Ismus Knox, 18th-century headmaster. Reverend John Langhorne, classics master and housemaster from 1860 to 1877. Tony Little, a former assistant master at Tonbridge, headmaster of Eton College. Michael Macrum, academic and historian, headmaster. Robert Maxwell Ogilvie. Paul Parker, retired cricketer, now classics and modern languages teacher. Anthony Selden, head of history and general studies, now at Wellington College, Berkshire. Jonathan Smith, novelist and writer, former head of English. Haldane Campbell Stewart, director of music, organist and choirmaster at Magdalen College, Oxford, cricketer for Kent. Andy Whittle, director of school development, retired Zimbabwe cricketer, a former teacher, coach and housemaster of Ferrix Hall. Notable Old Tonbridgians. Former pupils are known at the school as Old Tonbridgians and can join an organisation called the Old Tonbridgians Society.